pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, she's supposed to comment. She is.
Okay, consent agenda. We need to add 7.2, the legislative post-audit letter, to the announcements. So I move to approve the January 8th, 2024 Board of Education consent agenda and add the 7.2 legislative post-audit letter to the announcements.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda and add the legislative post-audit letter to the announcements. Is there any discussion?
Hood,
Yes.
Apple,
Yes.
Bose,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Studeville, she's not here yet, sorry, and Tisdale,
Yes.
Goodman. Yes. Motion passed.
Is there any patron input, Dave?
Nope.
Okay, moving along. 4.0 discussion. 4.1 teaching and learning presentation.
Our first off, I was gonna, make sure all our kids were watching so I could tell them no school tomorrow, but they already know that. So, and on that real quick, the biggest reason is you've seen the forecast and you never know if forecasts hold true, but the wind is really supposed to be a factor by about noon to 3, and it just takes a little bit of snow for us to have a blizzard. So if the forecast would hold, we could get the kids to school, but it might be treacherous getting home. So we'll welcome them back Wednesday. If you're planning on going to Spring Hill basketball tomorrow night, that's probably going to be on Wednesday if we can get officials, or if they can get officials over there. And then we'll see about Friday. It's looking like even more on Friday. So Dr. Van Reen is going to present the new graduation requirements that the state is telling all school districts they need to go to. So take it away, Dr. Van Reen.
Okay. So the first part of it, we just copied the language that you can go and find. It's very wordy. We've got some behind it, some good side by side, so you can kind of see what all the words are. But basically, we haven't had a graduation requirement change for about 20 years, so it's just going to tweak us just a little bit. And if you can just keep scrolling, we'll just kind of keep looking at that. The new things, communications is a new .5 that all students are going to have mandatory right now. The only kids that are doing, basically it's a speech class, are those that are taking that elected as for college credit. So now all students will have to have some mandatory speech communication class. So that's a little bit different. The STEM requirement below that talks about in addition to what we're already doing, kind of at the bottom, it says 1 unit of STEM elective would be required. And there's a lot of different ways to get there for kids. So one thing you're going to hear more about, especially if you have a high school student, is everything's really going to start driving more with our IPS, so our individual plan of study. So what students are really enjoying, the pathways that they're getting into, that will really kind of guide where they kind of take those STEM classes as well. So that they can get that in the ag program, they can do an advanced math or science class, or they can be a completer in an area. So there's some different things, including computer science. So scroll just a little bit more. So we also, they are calling it employability and life skills. That's a new section. It includes our physical education, and then it also includes our health. Right now, we combine those two together, so kids take those currently in a class. Now they're going to be separated, and they'll have 2 different numbers for them to report. So they'll have a health grade separate of their physical education grade. Right now, it's just 1, so that'll look a little bit different. How we teach that'll look a little bit different too to satisfy that. And then moving down, we have post-secondary assets. That one is going to be interesting. Right now it feels like a tracking nightmare, but with something we'll probably work with other school districts in figuring out how to just keep track of what students are doing. But what the state is saying is we want kids to be well-rounded, participating in lots of things. So we're going to use some of those outside things, basically giving them some of that real-world focus. So there's some different ways that they can achieve that. And so it'll be really interesting to see how that goes. So right here, That's kind of
Smaller.
Yeah.
So on the left is right what we have right now. So that's the requirements that we have for our students graduating. So the side by side here, the difference you can see is English, the requirement is 3.5. That other 0.5 will come in communications. If you have an 8th grader coming up, that would be those parents are going to really get informed on how important these first decisions are to make for kids. So it sounds kind of heavy, but choosing things early will kind of help guide them to the things they really want to do. So if they, to make that communication 0.5, what we'll be telling kids is you have a lot of different areas that you can do that in. Some right now are juniors and seniors are taking that not required class, but that college level class. But these kiddos can get that in speech, debate, forensics, and some different levels of journalism. So we'll be guiding those kids more to that than we ever have before. So more of that was just elective if you're interested. Now it's an elective, but you have to choose one of them. So that will feel different. Math hasn't changed. The science, 3 electives have 3 courses, units are the same, just adding that elective STEM. That's the part we talked about, that's a little different. History, social science is the same. PE health is the same, just financial literacy is a new requirement by the state. That's a 0.5. Adrienne Lang already teaches that class. So what we're anticipating is we probably have to push one more section. They don't have to do it as a freshman. They have time to do it over their thing. We can't wait till they're all seniors. It would be too hard. We wouldn't be able to teach that all in one grade level. So kids will kind of trickle in and out of that. So we'll kind of see how that works. Our electives, that's the language that's written on there. So we're going to do student-led conferences this spring. So when your kiddos are presenting to you, they're going to be telling you things that they're really interested in, the classes they're enjoying. And when they do that, hopefully as a parent, you're going to look at that and say, oh, okay, so why are we taking those electives? Or you really should be taking this. I'm hearing things. So it's going to create some of that good conversation. But what the kids are really kind of seeing, and it might change. They can change their mind and their pathways can change. But we want to try to drive those elective choices by those interests. And so the total credits doesn't change. We have the same units of credit there. They're just dispersed and labeled just a little bit different.
So
Any
that's-
questions on that?
Yeah, I got, and because I know this is gonna come up, as far as the PE part, we're not really changing anything. We're just dividing it. One semester's PE, one semester
Right,
is
it's
health,
not-
right?
So this year, we've done a really interesting thing, and I don't know if anyone's heard anything about it, but what we've done, Ms. Souther has integrated PE to every day. So they're doing health every day, and they're doing movement every day. And so great benefit for the kids. So those ones that aren't in anything else are at least getting fitness. So she doesn't really want to give that up. So it's still going to be separated by course code. But one semester is going to be heavy health. Okay. And the next one will be all PE.
Okay.
That makes sense. So
Yep.
at least they can still get some kind of movement every day.
And that is a general diploma, obviously, so we have different diploma options. And I've challenged Dr. Ben Reno, we haven't enrolled yet, but obviously without a growing student population at Louisburg High School, we need to try to be able to do this with existing staff. And so we'll see, obviously at the high school level, it's a little trickier because you have to watch for certifications. And so we haven't enrolled yet, and so we always then have those after enrollment meetings where they invite me over and show me different, how many classes they need of every class. But I'm hopeful because probably the actual student population of Louisburg High School will be actually a little less next year. And so if we have less kids and no more credits, mathematically, hopefully we don't need to add more staff because we just will not be in a position to add more staff. But certifications obviously will play into that. So.
Yeah, and we do have some tricky spots, but it sounds like we're not preparing. We're doing lots of conversations, but some things we're just not ready to jump into just yet. For instance, communications, one of the options is a speech class. Well, we don't have a general speech class for all students. All we have is that upper level because Mr. Weibar also teaches technology classes. So he's already split and has another half of classes that he teaches, but we feel like we should be able to get everybody through that in 4 years with the choices we have, with the high number of kids that like to take that speech class for college credit because they don't want to take it at the college level. So We haven't added that just yet. We do have some things even for the science that is just, we just kind of have to wait and see. We're gonna really look at what kids are interested in, and that will help determine how we move staff around, but it is a little tricky right now. for
Because
sure.
in that communications, they've got several choices. If they don't want
Yes.
to take speech or journalism, whatever, then.
Yeah, so we're hoping that we'll grow some programming, to be honest. Like, we should grow debate and forensics groups, and I think our journalism could grow because of that, because the kids have to take something. And so even though they might take those and still get that college communications, because they'll want it too. So we're kind of holding off on the speech until we see, we'll have to track those kids, how many kids have that box checked. And same with the assets, we'll just kind of have to keep track as we go.
And isn't it gonna be difficult, like you said, on the financial literacy, making sure those seniors don't, all of them wait, or
Right.
majority of them don't wait till their senior year to take that?
And I think that's what 8th grade parents are gonna hear is
Okay.
you really don't want your kids to wait till the last second to do all this. The financial literacy probably has some benefit the older they get, but they can't all take it as
Yeah.
seniors,
And if the board would ever want to, obviously you see 27 units of credit. Well, students take 8 classes times 4 years is 32. And so like right now, our seniors, if they've met those, they're half-time, part-time. So, that, if that's ever a conversation in the future, since it's right in front of the board, I just want to point that out. So like if the board would say, let's make sure our kids are there full-time for 4 years, well, you'd have to go back, so we'd have to up our graduation credits to 32. But if we were on a standard 7 period day, like probably most of us were, that'd be 28, 7 times 4. And that's why all the different high schools have different units of graduation. It's merely based off what their class schedule looks like. The state is 21 minimum, but then ours is 27. But if a kid would be there for 4 years, full time, they would have at least 32 credits. So not that that's this conversation, but when it's up there, just reminding the board of the difference there.
Good 8th grade stuff. I'm glad she's.
I'm sure I know as a senior, I wasn't there all the time, but I went to Johnson County, took classes in the morning or worked or whatever. I'm sure there's still a lot of seniors doing that. I hate for them to lose that. But if you bust your butt for 3 years, you can have an easier 4th year.
But one thing we decided, we definitely have a big school option and opportunity for kids in a really small school setting, and we do a great job of it. There's a lot of things kids can do. So our go-getters are graduating with 30 credit hours in college.
Do they have to have a certain number to participate in sports? 5.
And so actually my son is down to 4 and he had to decide if he was going to do track. If he was going to run track, he would have to pick up a 5th one. Now this is just second semester. First semester seniors are there full time. It's second semester, then every senior is working with the counselors on how many they need, what they want to do, and all that.
Gotcha.
So do you think this is a move in the right direction?
I like the idea. I think the buzz right now is IPS. I think that's really growing and preparing students a little bit earlier for college instead of going to college and saying, oh, we'll see what happens. I'm going to take classes for a couple of years. I think this really drives and it starts those conversations a lot earlier. So hopefully we're preparing kids in a better path for where they're going to go, whether it's college, trade school, or the workforce, that they're really, really ready with the best education they can in high school. And I think that's impressive and I think that's a great step in the right direction.
Thank you.
And for the honors diploma,
So our honors diploma is, can you scroll just a teeny bit more to the bottom? Or not that one, but you see so the graduation units, go down, make it a little bit smaller for that other side.
I can't see the bottom of that on my screen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not
it's not there.
the way, it won't let me.
So the students here are doing a little bit more. So we didn't feel like our honors diploma needed to change. So what we're doing now, we have 4 units of English. So those students that are most likely going to be your college-bound post-high school kids that are moving on, they're going to stay with that 4 units. They're still going to have that speech unit. We already have the advanced math expectation and science expectation. So the financial literacy adds on the other side, just like it would have, and we still have the fine arts. We add world language. We only have Spanish at the high school, so the same, that's the state language. It must be in the same language. The 2 units there, so we still have that vibe of driving by IPS. But those are the 2 side by
The only
side.
thing that's cut off on the bottom is, it's just the 27. So you
Yeah,
have,
okay.
that adds up to 27. That little thing you see just top says what the total is. So you can see, I mean, a pretty stark difference between the honors and the general, just on the left side. And like Dr. Van Green said, the staff really didn't feel like if we're preparing the kids for that honors one to change a lot. So these kiddos are gonna take 4 math, 4 science, still 4.5 in that English. Social science is the same, physical education is the same. So really your difference are those top 3. More math, more science, and another 0.5 of the English with that communications elective in there. And it's just a discussion. Next month you'll approve it. When will you start enrolling?
Pretty quick. I think we'll be at the middle school.
You're in the middle school on January 24th.
So
Well, we go to you, I think, and then you come back to middle school on the 26th to enroll the kids.
yeah, so before the end of the month, this Thursday, we meet with juniors. We kind of just are starting grade level at a time. So these are just pre-enrollment. It will help us kind of to see how many sections we need. We do that every year. How many sections, how many teachers do we need in each area? And it'll kind of help us see, it'll give us a good vibe of, yes, we're gonna be okay, or we're gonna be a little nervous about how to tackle large spaces that, you know, we only have so many people that can teach speech. If everybody decides they're gonna take, you know, something earlier, debate or forensics, Mr. Wybar only teaches so many of those classes. So it'll be a little tricky, but we'll figure it out.
And I mentioned that, so possibly, at least you'd have maybe preliminary numbers when we come back in February and the board, we move this from discussion to action. You might have an update on
We will.
staffing, and so then they can also approve it and also know staffing, which could play into budget discussions as well.
Yes. Yes.
And this starts with the freshmen next year, right?
Yeah, and that's the other thing that's a little tricky to juggle is we're gonna have 2 different diplomas happening at the same time. So we have the 8th graders coming up that'll be mandatory, these certain things, while others are not, but we're all playing in the same sandbox of teachers and schedules, so.
'Cause they could take those classes too, the
Correct.
ones sophomores and juniors
Correct.
this year.
So the next 3 years are gonna be,
I think
More
it'll start, I think each year it'll get a little less crazy, but I think it will be a bit of a tricky schedule to put together to start. But it's just a problem to solve, is all.
we have faith in you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, and you be careful on your way home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 4.2, the LRC board opening.
Okay, as most maybe know, or if not, Karen Olson resigned her school board appointed LRC position. Her term runs through December of 2025. So that position still has all of this year and then all of next year. It's been posted on our website and in the announcements. Right now, we have it open until this Friday. We currently have 1 applicant. But the discussion tonight, the hope would be that you would then appoint this person February 12th. So, because by then there will be 2 LRC meetings that this has been open. But what we need to know tonight is kind of maybe who wants to interview and when. And if that still timeline works, that then whoever's on the committee of board members would, on February 12th, announce to the entire board who you would recommend to appoint to this position.
And this is not the director, right?
No.
The one we appoint, right?
Yeah, 2 positions.
Yeah. So remember, the board does 2, city council does 2, and then those 4 board members select the other person.
Who is our others?
Um,
Heidi.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, thanks.
I don't know what Joe Aaron thinks, but her and I did it the last 2 times. I would be fine to do it again. I don't want to speak for her, but
Joanne, did you hear that? And actually, Joanne's already expressed it in being a part of it. So
she probably should as the liaison.
yeah. So Jennifer just said that she'd be willing to help. I mean, we could have even another one. Just do 3 board members.
Yeah, that would be fine.
You got
Well, then the 3 of you would have to decide. Obviously, Monday, February 12th would be ideal that the 3 of you, if Sarai's going to join. So I guess if it's going to be Joanne, Jennifer, and Sarai, if the 3 of you could just let Jenny and I know, and then we can contact these applicants. Does the board wish to, that we extend it? I mean, it is
We only
Friday
have one.
12th, maybe. I've heard we might have another. We can, the principals have pushed that. We can push it again. We can change the application to Friday, January 19th. The principals can run it again in their
I
announcement.
mean, I think whoever's gonna wanna do it is gonna get their application in by Friday, and that's my opinion. I mean, it's been out there a
Over
bunch.
break, yes.
I don't know that it's gonna be changed much to do any longer.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else agrees with or disagrees. Or...
It's been out there a month
Yeah,
now.
I don't think it would be a bad idea to leave it out there for one more week. I mean, it's just a matter of us, finding the time to interview folks, and if we don't have that many folks, it wouldn't take us that long anyway.
So would we not appoint them until the March meeting then?
February. No.
The plan would
Try
be
to meet.
February, so if they could meet before, and then at the February 12th meeting, it'll be an action item for them to write.
Okay, so you'd interview them before that
Yeah,
meeting,
so if
okay?
we go January 19th, that would still.
Oh,
give us several
I thought
weeks.
you said February 19th.
January 19th, if I did, I apologize.
And then we could maybe try to get together the week, Sarai, maybe if you could let us, Jennifer and I know what your schedule looks like the week following the 19th. We can figure out when we can do interviews.
We'll talk about it.
Okay, so the 3 of you, and then if you need our help and support, just let us know. But if the 3 of you can figure out a date, and then we'll find a place here, probably Circle Grove, and then I'll get you the interview questions, probably the same ones we used last time.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, 4.3, school board tours of school buildings.
It's been suggested that the board, during the school day, if at all possible, maybe tour the schools so you guys can see what they look like in session. And I would maybe, if that's something the board wants to do, I definitely would be fine with that. And it probably would take almost a full day, because obviously maybe expose you to even breakfast and lunch. But I would probably prefer that to be after the February board meeting, and maybe it has to just with scheduling. Because in February, I would like the building principals, hopefully it's a non-inclement weather day, to be here. But then also, like, maybe Megan can bring, and Cindy can bring a couple teachers as well. And the board can just have some ongoing conversations with some teachers and the principals about how are things going, what do they maybe need for board support. This goes right into the needs assessment. But then what you hear in February from the principals and a few of the teachers, then you maybe in the tour, they'll say, Megan and her teacher said this area at the middle school is crammed. Here's what it looks like. So I think it kind of puts those pieces together. We could do that, or we could have like a Saturday work session, but obviously in the teaching and learning, we have a part of the normal agenda where we can have those conversations. And so that's just kind of what I thought. I'm definitely open for Lanny and Rob. I mean, the last time the board did tours would have been planning for the bond, but that was in the evening. So in my 10 years, we haven't had this type of tour. Like I said, I'm for it. It's just if we could get the working men and women around the board to have this, we would be open and delighted. I think staff would that would be exciting. I know sometimes they mentioned that they would like to see the board in the building, so.
I'd ask for this to be on the agenda for the board to consider. We used to do this every year. I thought it was very beneficial to get in schools and see the kids, and it makes you appreciate what the teachers go through and the amount of responsibility that they have to try and make things run smooth. And you know, we could do one school at, like from 8 to 10, on 4 different days, or we could do, however, it would, if there's interest in the board, we could probably find some way to make it work. So
I'd
that-
prefer we just do it all in one
I
day.
think one day would be easier. Maybe we could send an email out with a few date options and just see.
Yeah, I'll send out an email, or there, I know there's even programs out there that let you like select all the days that work in your schedule, and then hopefully we can come up with a common one. But does that, like February 12th, well, the principals, and I'm gonna ask them, we'll have a meeting tomorrow with the admin, so we'll tell them to bring a couple of their, whether teachers that are on their site council or working with their needs assessment or whatever, be here as well, so you guys can have two-way conversations. But then, so between our board meeting in March is very early because of spring break. I believe that's Monday, March 6th. Not that they necessarily have to be between February 12th and March 6th, but is that, I mean, when I send out, I guess I'll just send out all dates in February and March, and hopefully we can come up with one that works. Yeah, I didn't think out here at Circle Grove, you can see Dave and his little kids out here in action.
Same.
For diaper change or for lunch. So, okay, I will send that out.
Thank you.
All right, 4.4, 2024-2025 budget process and timeline.
Another discussed option to put together a process and timeline. And so my thoughts when I heard this, once again, I'm very open to that, but I would just like some feedback. And then, so I don't have anything prepared on this tonight. I was just going to be a sponge on this. And then Katie and I would work on a draft that I would present to you at the February 12th board meeting, not final, then I'd want, so kind of want some input tonight. We'll then listen to what you're saying, put something together, present a draft to you on what I'm maybe hearing from you, and then you can let me know on February 12th, this is what you're thinking, and then finalize that as we move forward. So the floors.
I had asked for this to be on the agenda for the board to consider. The sitting through, you know, the last half of last year, kind of what the board faced and how things were brought to the board. I know there's probably things that I wasn't aware of, but it seemed like a lot got pushed down into the last couple of weeks of August. You know, if we could have site councils report out to the board in April or so, if we could also start discussion on capital outlay projects, you know, what that's going to look like over the summer.
Well, building needs too.
Yeah, building needs, and just give us more time to get our arms wrapped around it. So hopefully, you know, do the best job that we can.
Yeah, and we're still meeting tomorrow as principals, just gonna have a virtual one since we don't have school, but on the site councils and needs assessments, I'm gonna inform the principals of this, and obviously they meet quarterly and we have 4 representatives around the table. Obviously they need to start having their 3rd quarter very soon. I'd like them to push their 4th quarter earlier, so late March, at least early April. And then also that the 4 building board members that are on those be very involved, lead those discussions when it comes to needs assessments as well.
I think it'd be great if we can do those needs assessments, you know, March, April timeframe. That gives us more time to work those things into the budget and to, you know, get our, you know, refine our goals as far as what those, I know there's some things, you know, when will we get we won't have the, like, as far as the test scores, will we have all that data by then?
We won't have this year's, obviously what Dave presented, no, we would not have that. How early, like, for the upcoming assessments will we get? Dave?
We'll have the spring assessments by June 1. Last year.
Okay, so we can get started on it and then we can
Fill that in.
we can work on that through the summer.
Yes, you'd see preliminary numbers. They won't be, have gone to the State Board of Education for approval, but you'd have rough draft preliminary
Okay.
numbers.
Because that was a big part of our building needs last year for this year was the our assessment scores and
Yeah.
the improvement we needed to see. And I agree with Pat. I mean, I think that it'd be great. I mean, we already start with part of our budgeting process in what was it, March or April with the negotiations. So that's kind of the kickoff for it. But if we can move some of this stuff up a little bit, that way it's not all so compacted in one area or one time frame. I think it'd go a lot smoother.
Okay. Yeah, and we're working as far as capital outlay, technology, and so I'll present those, kind of at least a 4-year, kind of proposal, so estimates in the future, but, last big one to plug in there, a week from today, or maybe it's 2 weeks from today, our mechanical bids are coming in on that big needs assessment that the board knows we did. So we already know what we're doing for this fiscal year, but those that are coming in 2 weeks from today, bid openings at 1 o'clock, will be what mechanical things we're doing for the next fiscal year. So I'll be able to.
So you'll have that for the next meeting.
Yeah, so I'll be able to have those as well, which are big ticket items, hundreds of thousands of dollars we're projecting, so.
Okay. And that's all through our capital outlay.
Any other?
Anybody else have anything on that? Any other suggestions as far as the,
I would just like, obviously, we kind of looking forward as we do it, like, if we could fill it in when, I don't know if you're thinking about extra meetings or you're actually just talking about plugging it in to upcoming meetings, right?
Yes,
So
like last August, there was with the site council reporting out,
yeah,
the numbers coming in from the,
Yeah. it's like divvy that up between someone.
give us a little more time to
Yeah.
look at
I
the
like it.
information.
And we have some lean meetings in the spring,
Sure,
so
We
it's like those would be the ones we can.
I agree.
In fact, when Jim and I met, that's what I say, because I mean, if you go back, usually February and March, the meetings are pretty lean. Then we get heavy with budgets negotiations, and so like if you look back last couple of years, usually your February and March are a little leaner, so. But we have handbooks and all that, so. All right, I think I have enough to have Katie, no, I'm joking, to work on this and bring it back to you guys on February 12th in draft form. And then hopefully we can finalize that and just work on that then as a template moving forward, not just this year, but in preceding years as well.
Okay. Moving on to action items, 5.1.
Okay, and Megan, appreciate you staying here. The bulk are the middle school, and she'll be doing enrollment soon. And I know the 5th graders as well, saw that all get pushed out in Cindy's and in Megan's Sunday message. And if you've read those, you saw that I think January 31st is a big day. I remember seeing in there last night. But a bulk of these were the middle schools, and then we had physics 2 at the high school. So these were all discussion items, just moved to action. So before I let Megan brave this cold, I just wanted to make sure that there weren't any questions. So you can see all those there. Of course, a big one, and it's never been done at the middle school, so I applaud Megan for right away, is splitting that 6th and 7th grade. If you've had kids go through the middle school, we've done that at the 8th grade level. We've never done that at 6th grade or 7th grade, so it doesn't matter how well you do in math or like math, we all had all the same kids in 6th and 7th. Now, based off all those great assessment scores from Broadmoor and all our other data, we'll be able to start splitting those kids in 6th grade, 7th grade, which will just help. You just saw that honors diploma at the high school, 4 credits. And so making sure that we're putting kids at the right level, not just the middle school and the high school. And then those other classes are for that 6th grade wheel. If you're really wanting to get those 6th graders exposed in those different classes. The last one, of course, is physics 2 at the science level at the high school. So.
If we approve it tonight, does that kind of set in motion the schedule changes,
Yeah, so,
right? I mean,
Yes.
here's how it really helps me is that we have been working on our curriculum course guide. And so we have to update that guide based off of what you approve. And so, and so we've been doing that, and it's going to be presented. So when the kids, incoming 6th graders are looking for their electives, when we go to enrollment, then they click on that course description guide and they can sit with their parents and they can read through what their options are and then how they want to choose their electives, whether they're choosing 4 or 8 of those quarter classes. But if you need more time, it delays that process and we won't be meeting on January 31st because we can't enroll them. Because what they do is then they will go home and they'll go through Skyward and then they'll put them all in based off of the course description guide.
I believe on the 31st, the fifth graders are coming over for a day.
So, yes, we have a lot planned. The fifth grade parents are meeting on scratch. Sarah Alexander, our counselor, and I are going over to Broadmoor the morning of the 31st, and we're going to talk to the students while the teachers are in meetings, and we're going to explain that process to them. Their parents are then going to come, and I have a large Google slide ready to go, and we're going to explain the entire process to them, and then they'll take the enrollment form home. They'll have a week to get it all filled out. Then on April 22nd,
Not it,
I'm sorry,
April?
yes.
Okay.
On April 22nd, the fifth graders are going to come over to our building from 9 to 11, and we're going to do a little pep assembly, and then we're going to have a little session where some of them are going to tour and locker talks and PE talks, and so they're going to move around, and then we're going to end by them eating lunch in our building so they can kind of get a feel for what our lunch process looks like, and then they will shift back to Broadmoor at 11, and our eighth grade will come in for their lunch at 11 total.
We'll figure out something to do during their lunchtime.
Yeah.
So if I'm hearing you though, Megan, I mean, it's pretty important that this is approval night to build those course guides so you can get.
It is. We will not be able to begin enrollment until you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I really like how you've done this. I mean, especially the math. I think you're probably gonna see a lot of improvement through that, just treating the 6th and 7th graders like we have been with the 8th graders, and I like the wheel. I think it's great. We have a motion?
I move to approve the 24-25 school course proposal as presented.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2024-2025 school course proposals as presented. Is there any further discussion?
Hood,
Yes.
Apple,
Yes.
Bose,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Studeville,
Yes.
and Tisdale,
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, 5.2.
Drive carefully.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
We have two different policies before the KSB, every 6-month policy updates. Maybe we'll, even though Mr. Pickman lives close, we'll get him out of here as well. And we're not holding Cindy Apple hostage. She'd like to stay. So Michael, come up. So yes, this is in front of you, and then Michael did have a handout. So the big crux of this, and bold's what he's wanting to change, is we just talked about how we have second semester, mostly seniors, obviously not attending full time. And we just didn't have the policy to help Amy and Michael enforce attendance policies if kids weren't here for the full day. So take it away, Michael.
Yeah, we just noticed with blended students becoming more prevalent and obviously second semester, almost every senior tries to take advantage of having at least one period off. We noticed that there were kids that might be in building for only 2 classes, taking 6 through blended and Edgenuity or online. And that student then had the opportunity to miss a ridiculous amount of those 2 in-person blocks because every day they were gone, it was really only counting as a fourth of a day. So we noticed for a couple of students in particular, they missed that class probably more than they should, and we saw an academic decrease as a result of that in those classes and their grades and their achievement. So we decided we need to do something with the policy change that attendance is based on in-person attendance and not getting 7 days, even though you're only here for 2. And so that was what the policy change reads is we're going to prorate attendance based upon the number of periods or blocks you were in person at Louisburg High School. So thank you to Jared Worthington and Kate Larson who helped me kind of do the math on this. It was a little, I thought I had it and then I didn't. But So as you can see, 8 classes, student takes 8 classes in our building. That is equivalent to 7 days. So that'd be 28 block periods and then 7 of our advisory periods. I separated out because advisory is a little less time than what we would be in a block, 82 versus 50 minutes. And so when we factor all that together, what we had is if you were in building 7 classes, and we rounded up to give everybody the benefit there, you'd actually be able to miss 25 blocks instead of 28. And so when Ms. Hale and I are calculating attendance, we're looking at blocks saying, okay, you've reached your 7, instead of having 28, you're only getting 25. If a student's enrolled, say, for instance, in 4 in-building classes, instead of 28 blocks, they can really miss 14. That would be the equivalent or prorated of missing 7 full days of in-person attendance. So that conversion chart hopefully makes sense to you. That's what we'll give to the students so they can kind of better make decisions and understand, because anything outside the block thing got really messy math and fractions and decimals that just weren't very fun. So if you have any questions?
And we could have waited till April when the principals come in front of you for handbook changes, but we talked about the needs assessment several times tonight. Another big piece in our needs assessment is this topic, attendance. And so when Michael brought this to me, and I knew we were already talking about some other policy updates, and obviously we're just out of the gate for second semester, felt like it was appropriate to do. So what's not in bold is current Louisburg High School policy language. Those 2 sentences there in the middle is what's being added to. And you can see by the table, that's still a lot of absences that a student can miss. And we've changed that too to look at blocks because we feel like maybe in the past with attendance rates, we've been maybe our worst enemy, and then our attendance rates look lower. So we are trying to look at per block versus day or half a day to make sure our attendance is accurately reflecting when the kids are there or not.
Will this be, if we approve this, this will be obviously distributed to the students? Does this get emailed to the parents too, or
Yep.
anything like that?
Promote the heck out of it, so
Yeah.
nobody's caught off guard.
Uh-huh.
So we met with the seniors today, and that just happened to be meeting them, it's not approved, but if it is, we'll be getting with all of you, and I will specifically meet with the blended and seniors advisories. I'll go into their advisories and make sure they don't have any questions, so I will talk with all the students, and we'll get this out to parents as well. And it's got a message.
Or if you looked at the announcement Sunday, they do a lot of videos, so maybe they'll have another Van Reed Pickman video about this.
She likes it, I won't take much convincing.
I like the way that you left the existing policy in place and added a sentence. I'd probably like to give you permission if you want to go in and make it read a little better.
The news portion of that?
The existing.
Okay.
It just looks a little wonky in a couple of places, but
Certainly.
I mean, I don't think you have to bring it back to us, but I'd say feel free to dress it up a little bit.
I'll work with Dr. Ben Reed, we can look at it in April and bring it back.
So that motion, I'm gonna do the other ones with probably, I'd just add with flexibility or something, and the board does approve after that, so. Yeah, he didn't want to change that. We actually did discuss that, Pat, but until that conversation with the board, we can't change what's been approved in the past.
What are you're talking about, just like
The
the way that
non-bold.
it's spaced and stuff? Is that what you're talking about, or what are you talking about?
It reads hard, and then it talks about students, then it goes down and talks about you. I really don't want to get into it, but
Okay.
I don't want to be that person,
Mhm.
but I am. And if,
Oh, like
I
it should
just
say
think-
maybe if the student missed one class,
yeah, instead of saying you,
they have less than a quarter. Is that what you're talking about? That kind of,
yeah, it could just be
Text.
cleaned up a little bit.
gotcha.
Not a motion you have to approve, but anything else from Mr. Pickman? Drive safe back into town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The others, every 6 months, KASB provides school districts policy updates. And so the document that you see there, it's always at the front of them. It's kind of the Cliff Notes. You do have the policies as well. And then at the end of this kind of chart, it tells you, so there are 5 existing policy revisions, 2 new policies, And then obviously the table of contents changes, but then as this is approved, Jenny goes online and updates our policy index as well. So the first you see there is on evacuations and emergencies. And so that has been updated. It did have language in there when we did receive it from KSB that said like something like parents would not be able to come get their children. And I just know as a parent myself, just like we all are, if there is a true emergency, probably parents are going to want to come get them. Now, we would, as an individual building, work with law enforcement, depending on what the situation is. Obviously, hopefully, we never have a really bad situation, but there could be a time where kids couldn't be released. But like, for example, don't think of the really bad things, but maybe we're on what's called a soft lockdown or lockdown 2 because the Miami County Sheriff's Office has said there's a bank robbery in Paola and they're chasing the suspect. Well, if a few parents show up at Broadmoor and they know we're on lockdown 2 because we sent that out, but they say they want their child, then, the parents there would probably give them their child even versus if we knew there was an active shooter or something like that we hope is not there. So that was removed because that was in the original one. And like I said, those are just hard situations. We'd have to work on those from case by case basis. The next is food service management, and I had Katie look at this one since she's worked with Open as over our food service. They gave several options. The biggest one on this was how we collect outstanding debt. There was an option in there that talked about, giving a child a cheese sandwich or whatever. We don't do that, and I don't want to do that. So we do have to work with parents and students that have delinquent balances, but and Wednesday, since we don't have school tomorrow, it's $10 in the hole. And of course, as parents yourself, you know how many robocalls you get about your child's balance. Jim was talking about the Mike went over break, and so he had it listen to our fun message every day. But we give the child a plate. We don't shame them. They walk through the line just like any other student that has that balance as well. And then we work to try to collect that balance by the end of the year, and so that's one. You do not see that option in there. There was that option, and I knew without even presenting it to you guys that you would not want that option in there of a cheese sandwich. I mean, that right there as the kid's going through line, most of the time it's not the kid's fault. And maybe it's not even the parents. I mean, parents are busy or for whatever reason, and so we work individually with those parents, and for the most part, that is all rectified by the end of the year. The next one is a new federal law on Pregnant Workers Fairness Act and the Pump Act, and so obviously providing females that in our buildings an area that's obviously a clean, functional area where they can go and pump and do what they need to do with that situation. So obviously it says, which we would not do, nor do we, like they're not supposed to go in a bathroom or something like that. So it requires schools to make sure if you have a woman that's had a baby that you work through that situation. The next is another federal change in the Uniform Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act of 1994. So there were a lot of different changes in that one. Obviously, that's with staff members that potentially are serving, and we have some, and we've had those throughout the years. Most of them obviously are in the reserves, but we do have staff members that work for us that we have to work through those situations, and it's outlined in that act. The next, release a student during the school day. Just a few minor changes on that. The biggest was if it says in there that if we can identify the person that's saying that they're going to pick up their child, we will not release that. Obviously, that would be at the primary level. But if they're not in Skyward, if they can't provide identification, if we don't know them, we're not going to release their child. The next, student misuse of medication. This is new. This really just sets a little, and any policy you see with J, so you see it says JDDA, all policies that have J are student policies. This just helps our administrators and parents, but deal with students that are bringing over-the-counter medication or even prescriptions if they are misusing them themselves, or if they are handing those out to other students, what those consequences might be. So obviously, every one of us needs to take some different medication, and that's fine, but it needs to be for the person it was prescribed for and taken the correct way due to, by the doctor or pharmacy orders. And then JGFGBA, this last one, it is just barely updated. In fact, if you look, it added all it really added is at the top, where then it added JDDA, and then it added an and an or. But that one is merely just being quickly updated because of the other ones as well. So I did not see any, like I said, the first, when Jim and I met, the first one on that first one about not releasing, we did strike that, took that out. But other than that, I thought these were all very appropriate policies for the board to approve. There would be a motion, it would just, you probably want to change kind of as with Pat's conversation, so instead of the recommended as it says there, probably to give the flexibility on that high school attendance policy.
Are you still looking there, Jennifer?
Nope. I mean, I will keep
Wait.
it.
But you're ready. I move to approve the updated board policies with the flexibility for the administration in the high school to update the language on the attendance policy as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and approved, or moved and seconded to update the board policies and to allow the high school administration to amend the attendance policy. Is there any further discussion?
Hood,
Yes.
Apple,
Yes.
Bose,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Studeville,
Yes.
and Tisdale,
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay,
Was that just for board policy or board policy and?
it was both.
Okay.
Yeah. I move we go into executive session with the superintendent to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under coma to protect the privacy interest of an identifiable individual, and the open meeting will resume in the boardroom at 7:30.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session with the superintendent to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under coma to protect the privacy interests of an identifiable individual, and the open meeting will resume at 7:30. Is there any further discussion?
Hood,
Yes.
Apple,
Yes.
Bose,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Studeville,
Yes.
and Tisdale,
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
Motion passed.
I move we go back into executive session with the superintendent to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under coma, protect the privacy interest of an identifiable individual, and the open meeting will resume in the boardroom at 7:50.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go back into executive session with the superintendent to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under coma to protect the privacy interest of an identifiable individual. And the open meeting will resume at 7:50. Is there any further discussion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
And you would request the superintendent back then?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
you can leave.
Yeah, we just called him.
I move we go back into executive session with the superintendent to discuss an employee's performance pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under coma to protect the privacy interests of an identifiable individual, and the open meeting will resume in the boardroom at 8:30.
You
I second it.
The superintendent, or you don't?
Well, she's gonna come back in.
At a point in time.
So maybe we do. do we
Maybe,
have to do that
you just
separate?
need to come back in and leave.
Well, I would just make your motion and, well, yeah. Let's do that, since you already said it, so he'll come back in and then
Okay.
exit again.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go back into executive session, and we'll return to the regular board meeting at 8:30. Any further discussion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
She's
All those
muted.
opposed?
She's just delayed.
That's what I'm repeating.
We're good.
Not yet.
I move we go back into executive session with the superintendent to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under coma to protect the privacy interest of an identifiable individual. And the open meeting will resume in the boardroom at 8:45. Been moved and seconded to go back into executive session with the superintendent. Is there any further discussion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed.
I move to extend the superintendent's, assistant superintendent's, building administrators, and directors' current contracts for another year.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to extend the superintendent's, assistant superintendent's, building administrators, and directors' current contracts for another year. Is there any further discussion?
Foot,
Yes.
Apple,
Yes.
Bose,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
and Tisdale,
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, announcements. The next regular board meeting will be February 12th, 2024 at 6 PM here at Grove. The other announcement, 7.2, the legislative post audit letter will be published on the school's website. And I can, like to make a statement that we welcome the legislative audit and that we will implement any corrective action needed and are confident that our administration has been diligent in the use of the funds. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
At 8:40.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 8:43.
47.
8:47.
We have a second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the January 8th, 2024 regular Board of Education meeting at 8:47. Is there any further discussion?
Foot,
Yes.
Apple,
Yes.
Bose,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
and Tisdale,
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
Motion passed.